Sounding good. Sounding as if you're a good guitar player requires some practical know-how. Hi, I'm Ben Brown. 10 years ago, I graduated from music school with a guitar performance degree. I picked up a few useful tips. Let me give them to you. First thing, good tone is not static. When I used to hear people say, like, that guy has good tone, I assumed that they meant it was like one achievable thing. Tone is a use of a range of textures, much more like a palette. One of the first things that kind of comes to mind is actually Baroque style, characterized by an intense light and dark shadows. Contrast. I'm not an art student, I was a music student. But as far as my understanding goes, consider this dark, dull, undetailed portion of this piece. And then now consider the bright and the light and the detail. You can almost see the fabric on the dress of the centerpiece. Here's another fun set of famous Baroque images. You can see the light and dark. Think of the texture, the detail, and the dullness in contrast, the activity in the space. Contrast, Baroque. You have things like light and dark. You have contrasts like detail and dull. Maybe you'd call it sharp. You put these high contrasts together and close together, good tone. It's much more like a palette. It is having a collection of colors that you can go to on the guitar. In our sense, we can have light and dark. We can have busy. We can have space. This is a more healthy and productive way of thinking about good tone rather than thinking that it's a Telecaster going through a Blues Junior. In achieving good tone, we'll go over the basics of making nice little sounds, and we'll go over the textures. Start expanding the range of the textures that you can play, your palette. So I actually want to put out these practical tips for graduates of my guitar program, Beyond Beginner Guitar. The 4 hours of video lessons is very theory heavy. In fact, I don't even pick up a guitar. I didn't want the practical part of sounding good to go untaught for my graduates. So you have them to thank for hearing these tips. If you were in that post-beginner plateau where your progress was going nice and steady and feeling good and then immediately hits a plateau, you are definitely not alone. Many people have no idea what to do next. I created Beyond Beginner Guitar to overcome the post-beginner plateau and start making progress again. If that sounds like the bee's knees, in the description, there is a link to join the waitlist. You'll give me a little information about yourself, and I can let you know if I think it'll help you out. Moving on. Let's talk basics. Like, how do you even make sound out of a guitar? The actual mechanics, the putting your finger down over a string. That finger placement is really important. I've brought up this fretboard here. Let's rotate it a little bit. All right, so now we've flipped the guitar onto its side. Let me put a string on it like that. Let's take a look at this. This holds the string tight. This is the nut, the left part of your guitar. And the other side, the bridge, holds that part of the string down with those pegs. The whole concept of making sound with a guitar is to have a string pulled tightly. You pluck it with a pick, the whole thing will vibrate and make whatever sound that makes. These fret wires here, these embedded metal parts, those guys allows you to mimic what you're doing here at the nut and be able to simulate playing strings that have different lengths. The way that you do that is by taking your finger and pressing it down on the string. Now this bends the string over the fret wire. That mechanism is how you generate sound on the guitar. There's two ways to go wrong here. One way is to take your finger and have it too far back away from the fret wire. You press down here, you kind of run out of room to bend the string enough, and instead the string floats over the fret wire and ends up having more of a rattling sound. In a way, you'll miss that note. The second of two ways that you can mess up the mechanics of this is to place your finger past the fret wire. A portion of your finger, it's too far this way on the string and will actually deaden the sound. Although the way that I've drawn it here seems like an obvious mistake. Much more like this, where your finger comes in and the fat of it actually overhangs into the part of the string that should be vibrating. And in this case, instead of rattling, This one will end up having like a dull sound. It won't ring out, or it just won't even be there to come in. This is my tip. It's just finger placement. Once you know how to make individual notes sound nice and clear, really the only thing left is going to be chord transitions. It is making it sound nice when you go from E to A. And this can be really hard, especially in this moment right after beginner guitar. While there isn't really a trick, I'm going to show you a practice that, when followed, can smooth out any of the chord transitions that you want to work on. Working this way will give you gradual progress in all the transitions you do. Let's take a look at E to A. Find your first chord and place your fingers one by one, however fast you can. Get it to sounding good. Now, here's the important part. Don't go directly to A. Instead, relax. Let go of that chord. Take a second. Relax your hand. Drop it down to your side. Give it a little shake. Relax it. Get into a total restart. Bring your hand up and play A. When A sounds good, do the exact same thing again. Totally relax your hand. Drop it down to your left side. Shake it around. Just get it all kinds of flopsy, and then bring it back up and play the chord. If you do it this way, relaxation actually becomes your little home base. This is where you start. You pass through relaxation to the next note. Once you start to get used to this muscle on, muscle off, you can speed it up to just dropping your hand down to your lap and then bringing it back up. As time marches on, you reduce the amount of time required to go into a completely relaxed state. It'll essentially seem as if you were passing instantaneously from one chord to the next chord. And that's how you will safely and reliably get better at chord transitions. The last basic tip is the simple fact that every note has a beginning, middle, and an end. While it might be incredibly simple, this is really what's going to set a musician apart from somebody just doodling around on the guitar. They care how the beginning of their sound is. They have an intention for the middle of it, and they care about how that sound is made silent. If paying attention to the beginning, middle, and end of every single note that you ever play sounds like the most difficult meditative practice of your life, you're freaking right. This is an infinite well of mastery. This is a very high calling. It is quite the thing. At the very least, we can bring it back down to some practicalities. So how we're going to achieve that is going to be through our next little set of advice. I'm going to categorize under textures. Good tone is really a range of textures. It is not one particular sound that equals good tone. Instead, it is how you are able to play with the available sounds. When you think about textures, focus on what's happening with your right hand, because whether you're using a finger or a pick, these are the things that are going to be essential to how the beginning operates. Because your right hand striking down onto a string is going to be the initiation of the sound. It is going to create the beginning. So some textures that you might not be aware of can actually come through an exploration of just the humble pick. When the pick strikes the string, you actually have quite a bit of choice of the angle of attack. I want to bring to your attention the idea of all things staying consistent. The angle in which your pick hits the string actually matters. If you were to look dead barrel onto a string, and we have a pick here, you can strike the string with the pick just totally flat, or take the pick and twist it ever so slightly so that an edge comes into contact with the string first. Because of the shape of the pick, it ends up giving a nice little ramp and smooths out that strike. If I were to show you a barrel down look from the perspective of the string itself, it actually hits this gentler ramp actually has this nice little ramping moment, and then that's going to be a much more gentle take than we go back to the pick being head on, and that string just slams right into the flat surface, and then bong. Taking a look at this diagram, the string is being struck flat by the pick. And so this is going to actually create a beginning harsher, much more abrupt, versus if you were to have this spun and then gently ramp up to the end of the pick, something more akin to a gentler ramp up. This is something that you could explore to find textures. The other thing to understand is also how to strike hard. I actually learned this when I took a drumming class, where hitting something hard has two factors, distance and time. I learned this in the context of using drumsticks to hit the cymbal. The idea is the distance is what matters, but also the amount of time it takes. Double the distance that you're striking, but you also double the time it takes you to come down, you'll end up striking it the same. If you decrease the height, but you go twice as fast, spend half as much time getting to your target, you'll end up having the same loudness. It'd be the same hit. Essentially, you need to think through the distance that your pick needs to go to get to the string, and also how much time you're using to get there. It's how you hit something hard. Bloop. Some practical considerations. When you have these 6 strings, you actually have to consider how, when you hit a string, you might also impact or affect the other strings with it. Let's consider trying to strike this 3rd string. If you wanted to strike that string hard, your recourse is to approach it at an angle and then try to exit up at an angle. Your trajectory has to be this paraboloid hit and run kind of thing. It's not exclusive to single notes. Say these last 3 are chords you want to hit. But it's very easy to clip one string when you're really just trying to hit the last 3. In this scenario, you can come in high, and then you also have the luxury to go flat out of it. But generally, this coming in as far as you need and then coming out is what you need to consider. One thing that is helpful to know, there's a scenario where you can actually start with your pick or your finger on the string, pull it forward enough that eventually the pick slides off, slams into the next string, hold it there as this guy vibrates. Like, essentially, if you're attacking it at a point where this is your end result, slammed into the next string, deadening it, like that is a kind of max strike. That's picks, that's textures. This is the thing that vibrates, and this is the thing that starts it. This is going to affect the beginning of all of your notes. The next texture I want to get into is harmonics, or really overtones. There is a way to influence these things with the pick. It has to do with where you strike on the string. I pulled up this side view of the guitar. One end is secure on a nut. The other sits held in place by the bridge. So this represents the full length of that string. When you strike it with a pick, there's quite a lot of things that happen. One obvious one is that the string will vibrate back and forth in its entirety and will make this big wave. But what you don't know is that wave, it travels out to the nut, travels out to the bridge, and it bounces back. And it does a crazy thing. It ends up canceling itself right in the middle. And so you'll get one wave of the guitar moving in its full length, and then halfway through, you'll get another wave there. This is considered an overtone, and it is pretending to be a string that is half the length. And so this side vibrates up and down, while this side also vibrates as half a string. So this is an octave higher, twice the pitch, so it's higher up in pitch, and naturally occurring. This is considered a node, where even as this string bounces back and forth, this part of the string will stay still and allow this twice as fast wobbliness to occur as it rings out. But it does not stop there. This wave continues to bounce and return back, and they find another place to cancel. There'll be another node at the thirds. So this is the 1/3 mark here. Every third is also gonna wobble, and this is an octave plus a perfect fifth above that lowest sound. Then there's also the fourths, 1/4. Past the halfway mark. Boom. What is this? This is an octave times 2, a doubling of the double. These just keep on going up, where it's like full length, half length, 1/3 length, quarter length. Just keep on going all the way down. These are the overtones. Let me show you how this would map onto the guitar. This halfway node corresponds to this 12th fret. It's got the 2 dots. 12th fret, that is halfway from the guitar's nut in its bridge. And that's going to correspond to that first overtone, that first harmonic. Let me try to overlay that over this guitar. There you go. 12th fret, that gives you your octave. This slightly off side. 7th is going to give you your 3rd, your perfect 5th. And this 5th fret, just over the fret wire, is going to give you your 1/4, or your octave times 2. So here's what's crazy. When you strike with the pick, you can actually reduce some of these overtones by striking them at their different nodes. If you wanted to de-emphasize the harmonic, you would hit the node in the center. You would strike that node, hit this 12th fret. And if you do that, you'll end up hearing more of the lower tone, more of the simple, full-bodied vibration. It works with all the other frequencies too. If you hit this 3rd node, the node of the perfect 5th, this one, or this one, you can end up de-emphasizing this 5th in the harmonic series. One thing to remember is that nodes are not just 1/2 and 1/3. They're also 1/5, 1/7, 1/8, and all the way through here. I find it really interesting to strike up and down the different parts of the string to make the point. So whenever I have the pick directly over the sound hole, or further onto the fretboard, because there's different frequencies filtered out as you do that. I think it's a little bit different, but as you get closer and closer to the bridge, you also get another interesting sound. The tighter and the less the string moves as you strike really close to the bridge, it's less resonant, it's more twinky. I've known some interesting guitar players that would come to the other side of the nut and then just like strike the strings that exist over here. That also has an interesting texture and thing to play with. While I'm here, I might as well speak on playing a harmonic. All you're doing is coming to a place in one of these nodes and gently laying your finger just ever so slightly on that node. The end result is getting an almost isolated vibration of just that harmonic. It has a very pure sound, gentle almost. Here on the 12th fret, gently, just ever so slightly placing your finger over the string. Nothing is getting pressed. There's no bend, not that, just the lightest. I'm going to play a harmonic of a perfect 5th, the octave. There's actually a 3rd, like a major 3rd. There's a way to do a 1, 3, 5. The other thing that would be useful to know is that you can press your finger down. You end up creating a whole string that has its own, let's see, open string, fret 1, 2, and 3. We will have a mirror over here, open string 1, 2, and 3. This will be your halfway point. Essentially, you transposed the 12th fret, or the 1/2 marker here, and that's going to be your harmonic. With that, you can take the finger of your right hand, place it gently here, and use your thumb to pluck the string. That's how you get harmonics in the high frequencies. If you move this up a fret, you'd have to move this finger up a fret and then pluck your thumb. And you can do some cool, interesting things there. Playing a chord like your E here, and then you would need to place your finger in the corresponding spots. These are where your finger is going to very gently touch the string, and then you're going to have to pluck with your thumb. Pretty cool. Pretty neat. Another simple and more like complete way of developing a texture, muted strums and deadened strings. If you were to do some muted strums with your right hand, you end up laying it across the strings in this area. And so this is your palm. Your fingers are out like this. The reason that you put your palm here is to get at least a little bit of ringing out. Like this is going to deaden things too much. You're just going to get no sound at all. But it becomes more interesting as you approach getting closer to the bridge. And even almost on the flip side of where the finger could be a little bit too meaty, deaden the fret in there with the fat of the finger, the meaty part of the palm can be just over the bridge and deaden the sound while it's still giving you some kind of notes. And the more you pull back, the more you can enter in a full resonance of the strings and then bring back the palm to deaden it. And you can even do this in like waves. It's a tricky technique to have your palm over the bridge just the right way and still be able to strike with the pick, but it adds another texture. Those ideas kind of play into more of like the end. Through deadening, we kind of have a few different options for how we might end a note. Strum it, let it ring, just let it immediately die. Or have your right palm slowly move its way over all the strings until it just gently goes to nothing. You can even have it ring out until it all slowly fades away. The choice is up to you. So we have an answer for how we can mess around with the beginning, mainly through how we strike it. We have an understanding of maybe how we would end it. Let's look at the middle. You've gotten yourself into a note. What are some of the things that you can do while the note is happening? If you're on electric, you can grab the volume knob, and as it's playing, you can turn the knob up and then change how the end goes. Drop it down and bring it back up. There's also a tone knob, and so you can actually play with how sharp or how dull it is. Those are fun. Probably the number one thing to do is to add vibrato. Let's talk through the mechanics of the vibrato. You got your finger sitting down here on the second string, let's say. Finger's here. What you're going to do is with this finger pressing down, as that note is ringing out, you are actually going to push or pull this string back and forth at however pace that you want to affect the sound. If you do it slowly, they'll call it a bend. But if you do it quickly, you end up having a vibrato. Vibratos over time, you can go a couple different ways. You can vibrato the whole time, just consistent. You can vibrato slow and then fast at the end. You can go fast and slow it down. A lot of people say the most natural, like if you were to have a singer and listen to singers, a lot of times what they do is they let the note just be, and then as the note drops, they'll add vibrato and even speed it up as it comes to a natural end. So what is your finger doing to do that? You strike the note, let it be, and then gently vibrato, and then you're going fast with it until it fades out. The vibrato is very personal. It's kind of like a fingerprint. There's probably no two vibratos out there. It's a very enviable thing that guitars get to do. Vibrato is really neat. It's actually quite distinct being a fretted instrument. The way you achieve a vibrato is very different than the way a violinist would achieve a vibrato. Just to illuminate this point, if you're placing your finger here, the string gets pulled tight and it vibrates at a certain frequency. Let's say it's vibrating 1,000 times per second. This is called hertz. When you bend the string in the way that a guitarist does to do vibrato, you're actually sharpening the note. It is like increasing the frequency instead of being 1,000 hertz. When you bend it for the vibrato, you're actually going up in pitch. Let's just say it's a 10% increase. Essentially, whenever you're bending, you only have one option to oscillate between the neutral note, sharpening it, and then bringing it back down to neutral. And the movement from neutral to sharp and back, it's kind of unfortunate because it's not the most musical way of doing a vibrato. On a violin or an unfretted instrument, it's actually more attractive to drop in pitch. say from 1,000 to like 900 and back up and reach from flat up to neutral. Unfortunately, on the guitar, you can't do that by doing a vibrato in that way. There are guitars that have whammy bars. I'll just show you one. They take the bridge, and whenever you push down on the whammy bar, it gives slack to that string, and you can actually drop down in pitch and rise back up. And so you can use the whammy bar to achieve that flat to neutral. One thing that you can do with a guitar, which is actually quite, I guess, standard, would be if you wanted this note. Let me zoom in here. Say you wanted this note and then you wanted to vibrato it from neutral to flat and back. The way that you would do it is actually by pulling your finger back. And then what you need to do is take that finger, bend the string up as if you had placed your finger on this fret. You're bending up to that note. And then to get the vibrato, you would drop it down a little bit and then bring it back up. This is the pocket that you would vibrato inside of. And so that's only achievable by bending up to it, and then you can drop down. Keys of the kingdom over here. I have one little tip, one last one, a little novelty texture. It's the hammer-on. You take a string, you play it, it's vibrating, and while it's vibrating, you forcefully drop down a finger, like bang. At that moment, at that hammer-on, you change what the note is. Hammer-ons are also interesting because the mere act of slamming your finger down can actually cause small vibrations. You can just play notes with your left hand by slamming it down onto the fretboard. You can even do some interesting things where as this finger leaves, you can actually pluck the string. Say this was a pinky, and all along you had a finger behind it. Pluck with that pinky while the other finger is pressing down. You can create sounds that way. And you can do this with your left hand. You can also add right hand fingers afterwards to create another little hammer-on thing. You can go back and forth on that. It can get a lot more elaborate, but that is what's happening. A lot of ways to do it, a lot of different textures you can pick up, different palettes that you can develop through experimentation. And again, it's like Baroque. You want the contrast. You want soft, and then you want sharp. It's all those things coming together. All right, that's what I have for you. Tone isn't set in stone. No one person just has tone. It is how you manipulate those textures. Hey, as a reminder, there is a link to join the waitlist. You can regain momentum, overcome the post-beginner plateau, and enrich your life with guitar. Go join that waitlist. Thank you so much for getting to the end. So while all of this is how you make good sounds with a guitar, there is a limit to it. It will only take you so far unless you know that your guitar is lying. I'm going to recommend that you go check out that video. The thing that helps me out the most is if you go and watch immediately after this one. If you want to, you can let YouTube know that you like guitar videos by hitting the like button, but do not hit the subscribe button unless you want to see more from me. Regardless of whatever videos that I make, you're going to click on my face. That's the reason to hit that subscribe button. Currently, the videos that I'm making is a mix between guitar and really highly technical, nerdy stuff. Only hit subscribe if you're in it for the whole thing. Enjoy learning about that silver tongue guitar. See you over there. Bye.